We have Advocate of the High Court, Giteran Njuguna, in the building to help us have this conversation. How are you, sir?
I'm good, how are you?
Nico Salama.
Yeah.
It's been a while. Good to see you.
It's been a while now. Since the last interview and talk on the issue of contract.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, pendezi vitu sana, because last will is sort of not really a contract, but you know.
Yeah, you're the same.
it's
the same
the
line.
same.
Yes.
So we are, maybe before we get into it, please kindly, Giteran, introduce yourself. Let us know who you, where you work at, blah, 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 blah. I just said Advocate of the High Court, so maybe there's more.
My name is Giteran Njuguna.
Yes.
An advocate of the High Court of Kenya. I'm also an executive partner at Fred and Associates Advocates, a firm in Westlands. I also have a foundation called Wakili 001. It's more of a legal aid foundation. Yeah. Apart from that, I'm also a commissioner for oaths. I'm also an associate, Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. Yeah, so briefly that can give that. I also serve in various boards of schools as I'm also an educator also. So it's in line with what I do.
Yes.
Giving back to the society and educating more and more. Yeah.
Great.
Yes.
So today we're talking about will, the last will and testament. And maybe we can start with really what's a will, just to get it out of the way.
Yeah. In a layman's language, a will, you would describe it, though I have to use the word legal, it's a legal document.
Yes, it is.
That outlines on how property will be distributed upon the demise of a person. Because a will only comes effective once the person passes on.
Yeah.
A will can never be effective when you're still alive. So it generally takes effect once you pass on. That's the only time it becomes effective. When you're still alive, it's just a document by its own.
Yeah. So having a will, we've seen very prominent people in this country who probably have died without a will, have died with a will, but it's still being contested. There's a lot of that's happening. So I don't know if it's the will that was not legal, a word of mouth was not enough. How do you make sure that this will is legal?
Most of the issues, taking an example of the most famous families, who have gone through the court battles, and even a situation where the matter was before Justice Renaola, and he actually advised, that's the Kerema family. He advised them, by the way this thing is going, the lawyers are making more money than you guys should be making from the estate of your father. So he had to come in, because the problem then was Mr. Kerema died with 2 wills. So he had one will in London, and he had another will in Kenya. So the issue was which was the most genuine will between the.
So it needs to be one will? It
needs to be one will. Otherwise, you leave a lot of questions, and was the reasons why. But there was a lot of interference. You see, one of the reasons the courts look at when they invalidating a will, making this one more legal than the other one, is if there's interference from one part of the family. You see, assuming you have 3 wives, there's this wife who will want, because like that's what was happening in Kerema. They were chauffeuring over Kerema, who would be staying with Kerema. One wife is taking him for 1 year, they go and do a separate will. Then another one realizes, they take him to London, they do another will. So the court has to sit between and see which is a more genuine will than the other, and which one, what was the capacity of this person. Because also when you are making a will, you have to be in your the capacity of the sense of mind and all that, sound of mind. You have to be knowing what you are doing. Then the other issue is the memory. You have to be knowing, I have a plot in Kawangware, I have a plot in Lavington, when you are writing that will. So all those issues are looked at. Then the understanding. You have to, when you're doing that will, you have to be knowing, I have to cater for my, you see, assuming you have a sick kid, you have to be understanding that you have to provide for that kid in the will. In case you pass on, because you don't know who will take over your estate, so you need to provide for that. So there are issues you look at when you're making that will, and also the signing part. You have to ensure that you sign yourself, and also the witnesses. You have to have. Sometimes it is contested because you find the beneficiary who is supposed to be benefiting is the same person
who's the witness
witnessing your will. Sometimes that has been, or is the same, is the executor of the will. And at the same time, there's no witness. So most of the time, those they have been invalidated because if you're the one benefiting, you need to have 2 witnesses. Signing on that you also signed. So some two other witnesses, independent witnesses, have to sign the same will.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
So basically, I need to be of sound mind.
Yes.
I need to remember all of my properties.
Yes.
I need to remember who are the beneficiaries in terms of Atakama see my wife, but I
Yes.
was taking care of a sick kid, or somebody else who was in real need. They need to be included in that.
Need to be included.
And I need to sign it myself if I'm doing the will,
Yes.
and I need to have witnesses. If one of the beneficiaries of the will wako hapo na wana sign, you need to have two more
other independent
who are independent to come in and sign.
Yes.
So most people would also then ask, is a will just for the rich? Can me and my little quarter somewhere write a will as well?
I was surprised with Mwekali, not even like a plot or anything.
Yes.
Even assuming by the time you passed on, you only had jewelry and your nice shoes and dresses. You also have a right to bequeath that's a property as far as you're concerned.
Yeah.
So you can even books. There are people who have bequeathed their books which they studied in from university, and they still keep them in their house. Even if you don't have anything to bequeath, that is part of the property, your property. And also people, there are people who write poems. You can also bequeath your poems to your kids if you don't have any other
things. So it's not just, it is whatever it is you feel they need to give that is yours.
Yes.
That you can actually do that.
Yes.
In this time, we have a question for you.
Yes.
Hi, can any lawyer draw up a will for a client, and how much does it cost to get one? This is Mama Jason from County 001. So I think the question also is there, do I really need a lawyer for me to write a will? Is it necessary?
It's very important to have a lawyer in that for the drafting part.
Okay.
You know, you say just you writing and all that, you may not know the elements that you have to follow. Because and that's why you're seeing most of the wills are contested. Some might end up just drawing, because basically you have two types of wills.
Okay.
You have a written will and an oral will.
Okay.
I might call, when I'm old, I might just call my children and tell them, hii ni yako. Then I call, as in, you see. So you need to think, even when you're making the oral will, you need to consult a legal practitioner and ask which elements, or can you draft for me one? Most of the time what we do, we draft, you tell me these are my properties and these are my wishes. So for me, I'm able to draft for you and also distribute as per your wishes. Then I give you a draft, you confirm, then you sign from there, you sign.
Okay. But
most of the time it's only reasonable to have the lawyer, because sometimes you might have that will, no one knows where it is. But when one knows Gitere Njuguna is my dad's lawyer, once you pass, I'll be able to come and ask, did dad leave any will with you, or was there any? You see, so there's no confusion at the end of it all.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so it's important for you to do that. When you talked about the oral will, where umeketi umesema chuku, and that has happened a lot over the years.
Yes.
And even after the elderly have passed on, and they're like, I already blessed you people, and I gawanisha admali. Does that count? So there were 10 people here. They all had. Does that count in a court of law?
But the issue is the witnesses. Apart from the people you're bequeathing the property, you need to have some like 2 witnesses who will say, tulisikia akisema hivi na hivi. You see, even the old people, someone might not be educated.
Yes.
But he might be speaking in, let's say what? In
Kikamba.
Luo or Kikamba, as you can say. So someone will translate it, someone who was present will translate it into English and say, Dadi alisema hii na hii na hii. Then after that you then read again to the person who bequeathed that and say, Dadi video alisema na nini. Then the witnesses who are there. So that that's a form of an oral will. It's taken as an oral will before the courts.
Okay.
Yes.
Question.
Yes.
So when there's a will, and then there's also, when you buy land, when you have shares, you've put next of kin.
Yes.
So would that interfere with a statement, a will that says something different? Would that?
You see, if the will supersede
everything
next
else.
of kin, because next of kin is just in case anything happens to me in the hospital or anything, or they will ask what happened to this person. Is this person still alive or not? But you see, next of kin can never be. You see, a will is more of a legal document. It's saying a next of kin, even if you cannot even transfer using a next of kin as you have to go through the court process and have it transferred to you. So that the will has to be the principal document.
Okay.
Yeah, next of kin is just for information purposes and all that most of the time.
That's it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who will review my assets and how much they cost before I make a will? Say I'm those people who accumulate wealth randomly.
Yeah.
And they have not left a name.
That sounds like an offshore account.
We're not going to get into the Pandora business.
No, that one sounds like an offshore. You see,
they accumulate wealth randomly.
Yes.
Who will review those assets?
You see, most of the times, in fact, the will most of the time does not have, the only time it has value is the bank accounts. The other value it has, you see LL number, if it's Nairobi, say LL number, this in Ruaraka or something. So most of the time, even the value of the estate comes in, the people now who comes in after you have passed on, they can engage a valuer and say this plot was worth 50 million, this other one was worth 20 million, or approximate. We know figures. If you live in South Sea, you know what a plot costs. So you're able to, in fact, what the word we use is approximately, because we don't know the exact figure. So most of the time it's an approximate figure of this and this and this. Okay. So in the will, most of the time, it's only, even in the bank account, you say the money left in bank account X. You don't even say the amount, because you don't know how much would have been
accumulated.
Yes, then by the time you're passing on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we are offshore accounts. I hope I'm How hard or easy is it for you to change your will? Is there a limit to you can't change your will this number of times, or you can change only up to this number of times? Is there something like that, or you just change it whenever?
That's an interesting one, because the will, as long as you're alive, there's what we call revoking, and you say I revoke the testament and all that. So as many times as you want. You see, if I'm assuming I'm 20, I'm started making my money, I have my first car, I have my first house, and nothing stops you. Though African culture, people avoid making the wills.
That's the other thing.
Even as I'm sitting with you here, I cannot suggest even to my mom to do a will.
I had a weird conversation with my dad around this, and he felt really awkward.
Yes.
Very awkward, because it feels like now we are talking about my death.
Yes, you see now.
It is not.
You're wishing, as in they think.
Yeah.
So sometimes you avoid it because, the issue is, as long as there's something you want to change every year. In fact, you can do it as a review of every year. If you have accumulated shares, if you have bought more property, if you have sold one property and you need to be out of the will, because you also don't want to bring confusion. When you're passed on, you have put a property which you sold before your demise. You see, you bring confusion. So you are allowed as many times, as long as you revoke the earlier one, and you say I revoke the other one, and now this is the new will and all that. So as long as you're alive and you're in the same capacity, again, the issue of capacity comes in. You might have been of sound mind when you were making the initial will. But now the circumstances now for you to change, to revoke it and come up with a new one, the state of your mind also is determined also. Were you in the same state of mind as you are when you were making the first will?
Okay. Yeah. And this could be anything from you having probably a mental condition to you being threatened.
Yes, to you being threatened.
How do you then determine that this is...
No, family members, you see, it's very interesting. Family members are able to tell that time Aqua, he was not okay. This time the medical records can show he was not okay. So this most of the time is not you yourself who is making the will, who will be contesting this. It's most likely the beneficiaries. They'll be saying that this time hapana Aqua sawa. That this time mama walikuwa na or that this time, as in there's so many things surrounding it and all that. There's someone who was threatening him, there's someone who, as in there are so many things that come around.
We've seen these dramas on TV and on news where they made a will, and then they, especially the men, because most of the times it's the men who are doing these things, the man made a will, but then later found love. And so they have children with this other wife and stuff, found love again with a youngin who's, doing all these things, beautiful, and then akataka kuchange your will. And then Amu includes. And then probably he passes on after the will has been changed. And then now there are people who are also beneficiaries who are not a part of the new will. But he was still of sound mind, only that he had a change of heart.
I see.
So how do you go about that?
Now that one becomes, most of the time, if they are children and they can establish themselves as children of the deceased, now that's why you find, even though the in quotes, the will was genuine and a legal document,
yes,
it is a contested will.
Okay.
So now we are almost converting it to, because once you have a will, it's called testate. You died in testate. You had a will, you have everything. But now once you have a contested will, now we're ending up having intestate now. It will be, the property will be distributed in a testate law, whereby you look at how many kids did this person have, how many wives did this person have. So now we have already left now the will part. Now we are going to, like you died, like you didn't have a will. Because you see, you cannot arbitrarily, it becomes, the law is very clear, you cannot arbitrarily disinherit your children just because you have gotten and had a younger wife or for a woman. They will contest the will because they're entitled.
What of the children who come up during the burial? And they're like, now, and then they look exactly like the deceased. And probably they do a DNA, and clearly he is a child of.
In fact, it's interesting because I had a case. In fact, I stopped a burial like 3 weeks ago. You remember the time I was here?
Yes.
I stopped a burial just because, in the sad story, because the man had no, as in wife, legal wife. But now he had 3 ladies. Okay,
wait. That is also a key. I think, let's not throw it out there.
Yes.
So it's important for you to have a legal wife.
Yeah, as in it needs to have, as in the guy, if you die at like 70 years old, as in it's only fair that people know this is the legal wife and this other, you see. But this one, it was very peculiar because he didn't have per se
legal wife.
But now he had three ladies.
Yes.
Each had a kid.
Okay.
So one of the family members had decided to side with one of the ladies. So they had gone ahead and arranged for the burial without the input of the others. So I had to rush to court and say, no, this burial cannot go on until these other ladies are involved and the kids are involved. In fact, the issue was not actually the ladies.
It was the children.
The kids. Because they bear the name, the birth certificate and all that. So we had to stop the burial. And also now the third one wanted, because the name was not appearing in the birth certificate, they wanted DNA samples taken before the man is entered. So you see, so the court considers all those things. So even I've had instances where someone, innocently, you allow people to take photos during the burial.
Yes.
They took photos. The lady brought that photo as evidence in court, saying, in fact, look, even I attended the burial and I stood beside these guys. I've been a wife for this person and this, as in, so it's a whole, so things, that's why you hear people dragging the issue of properties in court, even if there's a will. People end up also, so it's also important when you're of old age, you need to pass on the baton.
Okay.
And tell them, the kids, well, India, this is US, as in, even when you pass on, there's no much fight.
Yeah.
And that's why most, quote in quotes, us blacks, us Africans fail. If you go to the Asian community, they involve their kids once you start realizing the age is catching up. You involve them so that everyone knows their task and all that. So that even if you pass on, there'll be no much antagonizing between the family members.
Great.
Yes.
Our time is quickly coming to an end. Is there anything we haven't, like, so for example, what are some of the protocols that will need to be observed when there is no will?
So when there's no will, we call it intestate. So the Law of Succession Act provides on what should happen. Because the first thing that happens is that you have to obtain the death certificate for the person who has passed on.
Yes.
After that, then you have to apply for letters of administration in court. And that's now why the process now, once you apply for that, for the letters of administration, you have, the same has to be put in the Kenya Gazette. It's what we call Kenya Gazette. Kenya Gazette is all over the country because people are able to pick and say, oh, the person passed on, this person was my father, or this person used to depend on him. You see, also dependence is another thing. I may not have been your kid, but I was depending on you. You are either paying my rent or paying my hospital bill. You are taking me as your child.
Yeah.
So that's another. So that's why you do the Kenya Gazette, where the name, the person passed on this and this. Whoever has an issue now raises the same.
Okay.
So if no one is raising an issue, then you go to the confirmation of grant. That's why now the properties are now disputed according to the way you have agreed between yourselves. Assuming it's a man who passed, he had a wife. The wife takes on first as the man of priority and the kids now. Okay. But now if the person passed on, he had no wife and all that. But now you had the mother, the father. Now you take the other priority. Now you move now to the other family. Father first. If there's no father, mother comes in. As in, you have to be on the bloodline for you to be benefit from the estate.
Okay.
And all that. Yeah. The process takes, I think, around 6 months to validate it and all that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I think we could be here talking about wills for a long
Yeah,
time.
wills,
But I think it's a very emotive.
Yes.
A very emotive issue,
Very
because
emotive.
even raising it or having that conversation in the family setup is usually unataka kunigawa kabla hata sijaenda.
Even my mom, even my uncles, I cannot advise them. Watu watasema iza kule wakili is the one who advised. So you keep off and say acha iende
tu nitaenda. How can people get in touch with you?
Sorry?
How can people get in touch with
you? Our offices are in West Park Suites, Ojijo Road, 9th floor. That's suite number 4.
Okay.
Or they can get to me via my mobile phone number 0727 554 556.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Gitere, for coming.
Welcome.
We are going to take a very quick commercial break. We will be right back. Don't go too far.